What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So for this TV series review, we are coming back to the series The Trouble with Tessa. And I say come back to this one because we recently did the trailer review reaction for this TV series not too long ago. It's up on our channel. It's in the trailer review reaction playlist. So if you haven't even seen the trailer, go check out the trailer before you jump into the series. I think it gives you a nice setup as to what to expect. And I was very excited to review that trailer, was very excited for this series to finally come out. Now, this is available currently on Screambox, and they just released the first 2 episodes this past Tuesday. And my understanding is, if I remember correctly, there's 6 total episodes, and they're doing 3 different 2-episode drops. So they just dropped episodes 1 and 2, and then next week they'll drop 3 and 4, and then the following week, which will be the 3rd week, they'll drop the final 2 episodes of 5 and 6. I don't think we've seen a release schedule like that before, where they've done 2-episode drops every week until the series was done. I mean, I'm sure there's a rhyme. I'm sure that they had a rhyme or reason for that. But either way, I'm happy to get as many episodes as possible, because I think sometimes when you only get 1 episode a week, it makes it a little bit more difficult, right? But it makes a bit more sense when you look at the timestamps on these first 2 episodes, and if the timestamps for the first 2 episodes are going to run fairly similar to the rest of the last 4 episodes, then it makes sense, because episode 1 was only roughly 22 minutes, and then I think episode 2 was around the same, like 23 minutes, somewhere around there. So while that sounds very short, like, yeah, that's not that long, they pack a lot in that little window of time, but it doesn't feel like it's overly packed. So we're going to get into that here in a moment, because we're going to go through the first 2 episodes, high level summary of them, what I thought of them, give a score for each one, and then give a score overall for where I think we're sitting at with this series. So as I mentioned before, and I will continue to mention, spoilers. So I'm verbally telling you we're going to talk spoilers, and I'm even putting a big red icon down below me. Just look down below. Spoiler alert, we're going to talk spoilers. So if you have not seen the first 2 episodes and you have Screambox and you plan on watching the first 2 episodes, you don't want to be spoiled, then I'd say stop this video, pause this video, go watch them, come back and finish the video. Let us know if you agree, disagree with my take on it. Drop a comment in the comment section, but we are going to talk spoilers. So I'm just giving you that fair warning now, and I'm giving that fair warning for about 10-15 seconds, so there's no possible way you can miss the fact that we're going to talk spoilers. So let's get into it. As I was saying, the first episode was only about anywhere between 21 and 22 minutes, 23 minutes, somewhere around there, but they were pretty much the same. And again, it did not feel like anything was rushed. It didn't feel like it was an abundance of jumping around and you can't keep up with the story. It flowed very, very well, even for that short window of time. Again, you hear 21 minutes for an episode, you think, wow, it's just going to feel rushed, or they're not going to cover a lot of ground, especially if they're only doing 6 episodes. No, they got in what they needed to get in, and for me, at the end of the first episode, they give you that hook, right? They give you that bit of information. They give you that scene where you're like, okay, I gotta see what transpires next. And they did the same thing with episode 2. So I'm gonna refer over here to my notes as we go through this. So episode 1, again, it was roughly like I said, 22 minutes, somewhere around there. And it looks like they're doing these in parts, because the first episode was called Part 1, Tessa, which is the main character that we're following here. So what I've gathered is that Tessa is a documentarian, and at the beginning of this, we're following her, as she's driving, I guess, out to the country, as the best way I could put it, right? Because she's a city girl. And we quickly find that out because as this episode goes on, we hear her, or we see her actually talking to, I don't want to say her agent, but maybe her business partner, in reference to a documentary that they had done. But the episode starts off with her, again, going out to this house, what appears to be out in the country, in this small little town. And she shows up to this house. She's being shown through it by I would assume is like the realtor or the person who's just in charge of renting it out. And it's a very stuck in time type house, right? When you look at like the appliances, like the coffee maker, the phones, the furniture, everything of that nature is very small town driven. And if you've ever lived in a small town, so I've lived in both. I've lived in very large cities, millions of people, and I've lived in very, very small towns of like just a couple thousand people. And this is very much of how it, I would say 100% how it looks. I mentioned this in the trailer review reaction, when in the trailer they talked about, there was a piece in the trailer, which is in this first episode, where there was agent says, oh, you don't have to lock your door. And we hear this siren in the background. And I'll explain, and they use it for a different purpose here in this series. But when you hear like a siren out, like an outside siren, like a Blair horn going off in the Midwest or along the Bible Belt, so to speak, they use a lot of small towns still use those, and it's to warn people of like a tornado that's like a tornado warning, or there's a tornado in the vicinity, and to take shelter. Those are very still much used today, and they use something exactly like that in this series, but used for a very different purpose. So as Tessa's being shown around the house, and this realtor pretty much tells her, hey, you know what? Not a lot of people can adapt. Not a lot of city people can adapt to small towns. Just kind of go with the flow. But he mentions though that there's a set of rules, like on the fridge, that she needs to read, and on the rules, they show it quickly, but there's a set of rules that she has to read through, and then to call, there's like 1-digit numbers like to call certain places, right? So it's very tight knit, and there's, if I remember correctly, there's like no cell service of anything of that nature. So she starts to get settled, get some groceries and stuff. Again, and one of the things that he mentioned was not to go into the basement. Don't go into the basement. And I think just like anything else, when you're told not to do something, right? She gets curious about going into the basement, right? She eventually finds her way down into the basement. And I think that's where the story will eventually get to as we get towards the end of this episode. But I don't want to jump there quite yet. So she has her first night there. She has a few more conversations with her business partner, and this is where I mentioned in the trailer. I think her name's Betsy. We didn't know her name at the time, but when I saw this lady, she had this eerie smile about her. I immediately said, "Oh, she's involved. She has to do something with what's going to go on." And Betsy is just as creepy when you watch this first episode. So when Tessa's on the phone with her business partner, she's kind of like walking about in the house, and we see Tessa standing in front of one of the glass doors. It's a normal door, but it's just a full glass. It's not like a wooden door. And as Tessa walks away, Tessa doesn't see her, but Betsy is staring like this, like into the house, and it's just creepy as anything. And as soon as Tessa hangs up the phone, the doorbell rings, and Tessa's like, well, that's kind of, what are the odds of that kind of like look on her face? So the lady's like, I noticed you're new to, and just want to introduce myself. And she pretty much invites herself in to the house, and they sit there and have like a little bit of an awkward silence. And again, she just looks like something's off. And that's when she introduces herself, and it's like, you'll like it here. You just kind of have to, adapt, so to speak. Gives Tessa some money, gives her some cash to get started, as she put it, because none of the places accept credit cards. They only accept cash. And I'm sure it's kind of like an off the radar type situation where they only will use cash, kind of like they don't have cell phones, because they only have like landlines and things like that. So it's, again, very, very stuck in time, as I mentioned. So they have a brief conversation back and forth a little bit. Night falls, and Tessa hears something. Something jars her awake. So she starts to go to investigate, grabs a flashlight, and this is where the intensity of this episode starts to pick up as far as like the music. We're in this dark house. She's walking around with a flashlight, right? So again, as she starts to then find her way back down to the basement, she full-fledged goes into the basement this time. Now she's fully down there. She knocks over a box, and this is where we see the first uncovering of these tapes, VHS tapes, cassette tapes, little dictaphone tapes. I think there might have been some Betamax tapes. I might have been. I'm not. I could have swore I saw Betamax. Maybe not. But I know there was definitely VHS, cassette, and like a dictaphone. It's like little small cassette tapes you used to use for like a dictaphone. And she sees all these, and she then starts to collect them. Right, so she starts to pull them all together, and then eventually make her way upstairs to see what's on these tapes. So gets upstairs and then starts to watch one of the VHS ones, and she's realizing as she's watching it, it's different angles from inside the house, like looking down the staircase, or all the shots are looking at the exit and entryway. So like the front door, various windows, and it's just like a camera sitting there just constantly filming. So she tries to fast forward that tape gets up ruined, so she starts listening to one of the dictaphones, and this is where it gets really eerie, where you listen to this old crackling recording, and this is where she believes that she's heard a murder take place on this recording. So, of course, that freaks her out even more. She heads back down to the basement to collect all the rest of the tapes. And this is where the hook comes. As Tessa walks away to go upstairs, you can see a figure there. You're not 100% sure, but you believe you see it. And then next thing you know, something moves out of the shadow across the basement. And then that's it. Credits end. So right there's that massive hook. You hear this eerie message on this tape, which gets her worried and scared. She heads back downstairs to get the rest of this content, and then you see this figure that she has no idea is in the house. So that's where we leave off on episode 1. Episode 1, I'm given an easy for me. Again, considering it was literally 20 minutes and didn't feel like anything was rushed. It felt everything was greatly paced for me. Foundation was set up great. And the way it utilized, let's say, like the last 5 to 8 minutes, give or take, to set up what I'm sure is going to transpire, which again, I'm calling it the hook, so to speak. I give it an easy 4.5 out of 5 for me. It definitely has me hooked. I immediately wanted to go watch episode 2 because I wanted to know what was going to happen with the rest of these tapes and what this person was, whoever was in the basement. Okay, so easy 4. I could argue 4.5 out of 5 for me. Was really happy with the first episode. So let's jump over to now episode 2, where now we in episode 2 is called Part 2 Lowry, and the way episode 2 started is the same way episode 1 started. We're in the woods and we start going, it's kind of dark, and the camera is panning into like this rock cave. I'm not sure what that all means yet. I thought it was interesting that both episodes started off that way, and then we kind of jumped back into what was going on. So we get back into we get like a brief summary of the previous episode, what transpired. They don't cover, it's not a long summary, it's probably like 30 seconds of what was going on. So Tessa falls asleep. She fell asleep on the floor, so she's covered around all the cassette tapes and whatnot. She has a notebook now where she's taking all these notes. Calls her, she has another conversation with her business partner. And during the first conversation, episode 1, she was like, "Hey, I'm taking a break from working. I don't know how long my break's going to be." And he's like, "No, you're not. I mean, you'll find something in like a week to get your teeth into." So when she calls him back, she's like, "I think I found something." He's like, "Well, that only took like 12 hours, 18 hours. And that's where she expresses to him, "Hey, I think I heard a murder on this tape." And now he's like, tread carefully. I'm not there to help you, because apparently she has a tendency to make up stories about who she is and whatnot to get information. And apparently that's happened before. And he's had to kind of bail her out, so to speak. I will say she doesn't take that advice, because one of the very first things she does is after that conversation, when she decides to go into town, after kind of getting all the content kind of like sorted and notated in her book, we get some backstory. Like I'll maybe like a callback, I guess is what we'll call it, on some of the cassette tapes, where it's the person within the tape talking. We're kind of seeing I'll call it a reenactment, so to speak, of her, how she met her husband, got pregnant, things of that nature. So we get a little bit of backstory there, as to a visual backstory. That's the best way to put it. So Tessa ends up finding herself now in town at the local library, because she's trying to find like some historical documents that would maybe speak to, if something happened to this lady, it had to have been reported, right? So she finds herself into this library. And I will say, again, having lived in a small town, this library is exactly the type of library you would expect to see. Very old school looking library, as far as like everything wood carved, wood driven, everything pretty much like that. And the librarian, when she starts to talk to her, Tessa lies, says, "Oh, I'm a genealogist." I think she says she was, "I'm here to do research on my dad who's from here." And she's like, "Oh, what's your dad's name?" And she gives obviously some fake name. The librarian's like, "Yeah, I know everybody who's lived in this town. Don't know who your dad is." I mean, you can tell the librarian's like not buying it, but she doesn't call her out right there. Tessa manages to talk her way through to get to the basement level where the archives are. The librarian takes her down there. And as Tessa's starting to go through the archives, she's noticing like a lot of the old newspapers that she's looking through. A lot of the information is redacted, but she was able to find a name, and I believe it was the husband. There was other articles around the fact of what like this woman went missing, and she came across an article where it says like there's a new law required that homeowners to inspect and seal off their basements. But again, a lot of the information, when it gets into like the actual articles, we see a lot of it is redacted. The volunteers have gone missing, so obviously it's all tying back to the disappearance of this pregnant girlfriend that we believe is on the tapes. And the name that she finds is I think it was like Frederick Kane, something of that nature. But I think it was Frederick Crane. She takes notice of all that. So she goes up, tells the librarian, "Hey, I'm done." And she's like, "Oh, good. I hope you found everything you needed, because archives are shut down. We have to do some work down there, and you're pretty much not allowed back down there." The librarian knows like what's up, right? She knows she's lying. Tessa manages to leave. Librarian gets on the phone. I'm not too sure who she called. Tessa finds herself at the local bar, where we have some locals who have been there generational wise, but then we run into the bartender, who you can tell came from the city and is now lives in Lowry, but has assimilated, right? He has kind of gone with the flow, as Betsy said. She gets caught trying to tape record the conversation. She gets kicked out of the bar. Notices that somebody outside the bar was walking away. He's a drinker. She grabs a bottle of wine from her vehicle, follows him. Now, while she's going to follow him, another person left the bar, and we follow him briefly. He's got a limp. We don't know who he is, but he was visually upset by the questions she was asking in the bar. But again, we don't know his story yet. I'm sure we'll find out potentially in the next episode, because again, all we saw him was getting upset in the bar, and then when she was outside, he was out there as well, watching what was happening, and then he happens to just walk away. Tessa follows the other individual, the guy that she saw was drinking, into the woods where he is found, and she's like, "Listen, I just want to talk." Again, she's playing the story of, "Hey, I'm a student. I'm working on this project. I'm working on this paper." Convinces him to chat, and offers him the bottle of wine. I'm assuming it's a type of wine, and she somehow convinces him, "Well, you're gonna love it. It tastes like cupcakes." And he has this look on his face like, "Come on." And she's like, "Come on, you can't tell me you don't like cupcakes." So he starts drinking it. Yes, he loves it. So it really breaks his wall down. They start conversating a bit back and forth about things. And very quickly, as he starts to reminisce about certain things about himself. It comes out right before the episode ends when she asks, "Oh, what's your name?" And guess who it is? It's Frederick Crane. And then the credits roll. So again, they did another very well. They did very well on hooking you on like, okay, she just went through all these archives. She comes across this name multiple times about, as it relates to this incident where, again, all this is being redacted. And she notates this name down in her notebook as somebody who's of interest or someone she needs to look further into. And she just so happens to be sitting there sharing a bottle of wine with the guy out in the middle of the woods and says who he is. And then again, the credits roll. Again, as they did with episode 1 and as they did with episode 2, they left you off with 2 major hooks to draw you in to want to see what happens next. Again, with this episode, even though it was roughly 20 minutes, it was just like the first one, very well paced. You don't feel like they're rushing it through. It feels like it's moving along as it should. And I would still give this one another solid 4.5. Overall, I could, again, I think just based on the series, only 2 episodes, 4.5 out of 5 thus far. I didn't know what to expect going into this based off just the one trailer we had, but thus far I'm very happy. I look forward to watching episodes 3 and 4 next week, and we will be coming back and doing an episode 3 and 4 recap and scoring and summary of those as well. So yes, very happy with what we've seen thus far with the Trouble with Tessa episodes 1 and 2. So that's going to do it for our reviews, recaps of this series so far. Again, over on Screambox, the Trouble with Tessa episodes 1 and 2 have been put out there. And then we have 2 more weeks where they'll drop 2 episodes for the next 2 weeks. I believe, again, I think it said it was going to be on Tuesday. So next Tuesday, we'll get episodes 3 and 4. And then the following, we'll get the final 2 episodes, 5 and 6. So again, if you have Screambox, I highly recommend check out this series. Again, the episodes are not that long, but they do draw you in my opinion. So drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think. If you've watched the episodes as well, let me know what you thought of them. Let me know what you score them. If you haven't seen them, again, and you have Screambox, I recommend go add it to your queue. Go give them a watch. Again, it's only 40 minutes to watch the first 2 episodes, and most TV series nowadays, that's 1 episode in itself. So make sure to hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next one. Later.